Hey guys, it's Ron with RB Real Estate Solutions. I'm here with Ronald.
Ron. Hi guys.
No problem.
All right.
And we're Ron over here. So the purpose of this video is to show the depth that RB goes through throughout the process. We don't always have to take things to a legal battle. Sometimes we're able to resolve things just by creating settlements. So let me set up the circumstances so the people who are watching can understand what's happening. So Ronald is the owner of a single family property. He owned the property with a woman named Claudia. They were together for 12 years.
Yes, we were. 12 years.
Claudia unfortunately passed and is now in the next life, the next world. And the circumstances were that because they were on the deed together and because they were essentially tenants in common, right? And there was no will, and also there's no marriage, right? There was no legal entity of marriage, and there's no common law marriage in the state of New York. So therefore, the transfer in her passing, the transfer of her estate went over to her heirs, 3 heirs in particular, who no longer live in New York. And unfortunately there was just
basically some issues where, I mean, it was tough. I've been going through it for a good, I would say about a good 10 years trying to resolve this. And I tell you guys, if it wasn't for Ron to come through and help me out here, I'd be still fighting for another probably 10 years.
Well, let's leave that for a moment, for a sec, right? So the heirs and Ronald, just are not on the best of relationship for now.
No.
And it took a lot of effort to create a meeting of the minds with the heirs in order to get into some position of purchasing their rights to the estate and so on. So that's essentially around the estate portion of it. The second portion of it is around the bank. The bank is in an active foreclosure process, and they've been at it for several years now. You want to talk about some of the pressure about the bank?
Yes, I mean, they've been sending letters, foreclosure letters, and I mean, it's not been, I'll put it like this, I have not been getting any sleep lately throughout this process. But it's been tough. But like I said again, since now Ron has came in to my life, and I tell you, he have really helped me. So
So the idea being is, well, you might be just a little bit of an anxious guy.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm going to sleep after the night. You got to understand, I'm going to sleep after the night.
Good. So the idea being that there's an estate and there's a foreclosure and there's negative equity in the property. It's a single family residence in Queens. So we have to go through options such as a short sale. We're probably going to see how we can negotiate with the bank based on the value, etc., etc. All right, so now let's talk about, we'll go through our normal process. As you guys can see on our website, this is something that we do all the time. So the process of the bank is not what's interesting here. What's interesting though is Ronald's experience in trying to resolve this on his own, which is what I want to get into on this video. So tell us, you have the estate matter, which is relatively simple.
Right.
It's a relatively simple matter. The problem was that we really needed a lot of effort to get to the family members.
Exactly.
Right? It wasn't that, right, and the problem with these situations where there's an estate and there's a short sale, or I should say a foreclosure happening at the same time, is that now you have multiple areas of the law. You have surrogates court, and then you have regular real estate property law. And these two segments don't necessarily coincide with each other. So to try and resolve it all in one shot with, let's say, one attorney, it's really not the specialty of one attorney.
No.
Right? You really need somebody, and then you also need to purchase the property. Somebody actually sell the property.
Right.
So you have to have several professionals here doing it, and who's going to manage all that? that's really what got stuck over the last
Right.
10 years.
Right.
It's not that there isn't a solution, it's just that there was a missing, let's say, there was a missing sense of leadership with capital and
Right.
experience that had the ability to facilitate the whole thing in one
Exactly.
shot, right?
Exactly.
So tell us, what was kind of your experience in trying to resolve this on your own?
Well, there was no way that I was able to resolve it on my own because I tell you, I had lawyers that said, you know, you would have to try to take administrative over the property. I couldn't take
On the estate problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I couldn't take administrative. I was just in a locked position. I couldn't move forward. I couldn't move backwards. I was just in a locked position.
Well, more specifically, when you would approach the attorney and he says, okay, you have to take control of the estate,
Right.
You're not technically in her estate because
Exactly.
you weren't her husband,
Exactly.
and there's no common law in New York.
That is true.
Right.
That is true.
So therefore, you could not actually take possession of the estate.
Like I said, I was locked. I was
Right.
in a position where I couldn't move right, left, backwards, forwards. I couldn't move. I was just locked.
Right. And that's what I was saying. There's no good mechanism in the law for Ronald right now.
Right.
Right. In this very specific position, it's a tight position. I also, even as an investor, where I want to invest and I have a motivated person who wants to resolve his problems, I also had challenges in resolving this because you really need to create a situation where you cause a settlement, a voluntary settlement, right?
Right.
There was not a lot of leverage here in law that I could use as an investor either.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, between the estate and I, and it was just to where we couldn't see eye to eye.
Right.
You
Well,
understand?
that's a problem. That's a human problem, just a communication problem.
Right.
Because they had a different perception of what was happening. So to be able, what RB did was to create the proper understanding of what's going on with the property so that they can see for
Right.
themselves what's there. And, so let's say, why didn't your attorney do this?
That's a very good question. Very good question because obviously, he's saying
And this was a paid attorney.
right, paid attorney.
This you found him on your own.
Exactly.
You went to consultations.
Exactly.
You paid his whatever legal bill it
Right.
was.
Exactly.
And so why wasn't it resolved?
That's a very good question. He was not, and as a matter of fact, he wasn't even getting back to me.
He was he's not an incompetent person. He's a
No,
competent
no,
attorney, right?
right.
They passed the bar.
Right, exactly. But for some reason, he was just not contacting me. And what I couldn't understand was if you just don't want to do this or you can't do it, then just tell somebody.
Well, I'll tell you what the issue is that we have found with attorneys, right? Attorneys would get their, I don't know, let's just call this matter a $3,000 payoff for them or
Right.
a $4,000 payoff for them, right?
Right.
Even if it was a $7,000 payoff for them, which it's not,
Right.
right? You still only one out of hundreds of clients, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, they're selling you their time in order to create something. But attorneys, they don't. If you caused a settlement in 30 minutes of time,
Right.
which really unlocks a lot of money of value, that attorney doesn't really get compensated, right? He's not a deal maker.
Exactly, and
They
that's-
get compensated by investing their time in litigation,
Right.
filing paperwork, consultations, phone calls, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Whereas an investment firm, we get compensated by buying a property and then selling a property.
Right.
So we get compensated by the result, right? So for
Exactly.
me, I'll invest 30 minutes the same way like I'll invest 100 hours.
Right.
And, we get compensated by the value that we create through the result.
Exactly.
We don't get paid as a result of time. And that's really where the missing link is between people and their attorneys, which is
Right.
that the attorney, frankly, and forgive my French, doesn't give a shit.
I found that out. I definitely found that out.
Right. And this was, when you say I've been trying to resolve it for 10 years, at some point as a human being, you just run out of gas. You had to chase them. You have to chase the attorneys
Right.
who you hired and are
Exactly.
being compensated,
This
right?
is true.
Just to give you attention.
Exactly. That's why I said I'm gonna see some sleep tonight. Just, look, I haven't been taking care of myself. I haven't been doing anything. Because,
Well, that's not true. You take care of yourself. You
Yeah.
didn't get a haircut in the last few days.
But
That's all good.
I mean, you know, but it's real depressing. This can be real depressing. I mean, I wish anybody can. I wouldn't. Let's put it like this. I gotta be honest. I would not want to put anybody in my shoes
Right.
of what I've been through in the last 10 years.
And you're in a position where, you know, it's stuck between people who are not willing to do anything with you. Also, you don't necessarily have the same depth of knowledge of what's happening in the foreclosure process, right?
Right.
That's a very complicated process that
Right.
people are experts in, who have to lawyers and schmoyers. And then investors are constantly cold calling you, telling you that they can resolve everything.
You know, to me, it's not resolving it.
Not to say it like in a bad way, but also your name and any other asset that you have.
Right.
And I'm aware that you have other assets, right?
Yes.
So it's like
Yes.
you have other assets, they're in jeopardy now because if the bank forecloses, you get a judgment against your name,
That is so true.
and that's probably what's keeping you up. Like if you didn't have any other assets
Right.
and to protect,
Exactly.
and the bank comes after you, you're like, okay, big deal. I'll file a $2,500 bankruptcy.
Exactly.
But that's not the case yet.
That's not the case. It's not the case.
So, you know, for all of the things that we've said here, it's causing you a lot of anxiety,
Yes.
and you can't even resolve the problem
Not at all.
because you're not in a full position of ownership.
That's right. That's right.
And you go to the attorneys, then you gotta chase them. You know, it's a problem.
It's just
You're
true.
very lucky actually that you're in New York because the judicial process is so cumbersome, even for the banks, that you have even been able to go through this for 10 years.
Exactly.
Because if you would have been in Florida, in a Republican state, it would have been
It's been,
finished.
yeah, it would have been done after 1 year. 2 years at tops, it would have been done. So, like you said again, that's another good reason as far as being in New York.
Well, I'm saying you're lucky in this judicial environment,
Right.
and yeah, because it's so complicated, the quality of the attorney that you would choose, right,
Right.
is so much more important, and that's really an RB thing, right? Where, you know, RB Real Estate Solutions has been able to create and link up with the right sets of litigation, foreclosure defense, estate attorneys. Because look, any mom and pop style of an attorney will sell you their service. But if you don't have a professional attorney that has the workflow process, the knowledge base, and so on, and the investor behind it that understands the real estate component of it, specifically bank negotiation, right? Because the bank negotiation happens outside of the courts,
Exactly.
right? Lawyers negotiate in court.
And cool.
Investors negotiate with the management departments at these banks,
Right.
right? So there's so much happening that's in depth with these files that, you know, you can't say, you know, all attorneys are the same or all investors are the same. The execution counts and that's really the purpose of this video,
Right.
right? The execution counts. How RB executes is going to be so much more different than how your attorney may execute or how a smaller attorney is going to execute. You know, it's just so, and here's the difference, right? Ron is
Right.
feeling the difference.
Big difference. Big difference.
So, and then just some other fun facts about this particular file. We've already worked out and we're working with what's called a possession agreement, right? You're in the property until we fully resolve things,
Exactly.
right? As of the date of this video, things are not fully resolved but the purpose of this video is just to show all of the hardship leading up to it and also the resolution with the family. So we'll take care of that bank process, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, but you know, there's a lot of pain that has been led up just to this point, and a lot of relief, God willing,
Yes.
that you'll receive just by getting into this position.
Right. This is right.
So that's it. I'm good. I appreciate you watching if you've gotten this long in the video. And Ron, any parting words?
Like I said again, guys, RB is the one. That name stands by itself. Solutions. RB.
Right. All right, Ron. Thank you, brother. I
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, bro.
And you and the company as well. Thank you.